Good. So this is a new schedule. Between now and 5:45 has been dedicated to reading offerings. So we're going to begin with some Prabhupada disciples. Pavamana and Yamuna were working in the kitchen. But before we do, I'll read a little bit about the meaning of Vyasa Puja from the Sri Vyasa Puja book, which are available in the bookstore. Going fast, so get your copy when you can. This is written by Haribol, please, take it out. This is written by Ruchira Dasi, who's an old Prabhupada disciple, the wife of Adikarta, who lives in Alachua, and she's quite a preacher. Vyasa Puja is an offering of our gratitude to Srila Vyasadeva, the literary incarnation of the Lord, and the whole disciplic succession, from Lord Krishna to Brahma, to Narada, to Vyasa, and right down to the present day. The procedure for offering gratitude to Srila Vyasadeva is to honor his foremost representative, the spiritual master, on his appearance day. Thus, in today's International Society for Krishna Consciousness, with many initiating spiritual masters, Vyasa Puja is observed by their disciples on many days throughout the year. But the one Vyasa Puja that all ISKCON members observe is the appearance anniversary of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of ISKCON and the main instructing spiritual master for all ISKCON members now and forevermore. When Srila Vyasadeva received knowledge from his spiritual master, Narada Muni, he decided to organize it into 4 Vedas. Vyasadeva could see that in the future, with the arrival of Kali Yuga, most of society would be unable to remember the Vedic mantras just from hearing them. So he had them written down, divided into 4, and entrusted to his leading disciples. Then he wrote the Puranas, minus the Bhagavatam, to explain the Vedas, and the Mahabharata for the less intelligent masses. Then he wrote the Vedanta Sutra, a summary of all Vedic literature. Although Vyasa was thus engaged himself in welfare work for all people, he still felt dissatisfied. In the purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 1.4.30, Srila Prabhupada states, Srila Vyasadeva appeared to have lost the clue and therefore felt dissatisfaction. At this critical time, his spiritual master Narada Muni came to him and explained the cause of Vyasadeva's dissatisfaction. You have hardly broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. That philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless. Although a great sage, you have very broadly described the 4 principles beginning with religious performances, you have not described in such an extent the glories of the Supreme Personality, Vasudeva. And then the next 2 verses, Nayad vichas chitta badang hare yasho, etc. Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since the all-perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. And then, Tad Bhagavasargo Janataga Viplavo. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. After thus being advised by Narada, Vyasadeva wrote the Bhagavatam, the ripened fruit of all Vedic literature, for the welfare of the whole human society. This knowledge has been carefully passed down through the chain of disciplic succession to the present day, and I believe that all of us who have seriously heard, studied, and worshipped the Bhagavatam have experienced a revolution in our impious lives. Therefore, we set aside this wonderful day for worshipping Srila Vyasadeva and our parampara by worshipping Vyasa's most glorious modern representative, Srila Prabhupada. On the order of his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada brought the knowledge of the Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, the teachings of the 6 Goswamis, and the Lord's holy name to the whole world. His mission was to save the fallen souls in the Western countries and throughout the world by spreading this knowledge. What an inconceivably priceless gift. How can we ever begin to repay him for opening our tightly closed eyes? Vyasa Puja is not just an offering of flowers and praise to Srila Prabhupada, but an offering of our very lives. Sri Prahlad Maharaj captured the mood of a true disciple in this prayer to Lord Nrsingadev, Bhagavatam 7.928. Evam janam nipatitam babavahi krupe. My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, because of my association with material desires one after another, I was gradually falling into a blind well full of snakes, following the general populace. But your servant Narada Muni kindly accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve this transcendental position. Therefore, my first duty is to serve him. How could I ever leave his service? In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, while teaching Rupa Goswami, Lord Chaitanya said, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. One can achieve the seed of devotional service by the mercy of the Guru, the spiritual master, and then by the mercy of Krishna. This is the secret of success. First, one should try to please the spiritual master, and then one should attempt to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna himself says in the Bhagavad Gita, 1855, that only by devotional service can I be understood in truth. Srila Prabhupada afforded this supreme opportunity to all people of the world, making karma, guru, self-realization, kirtan, etc., household words. So many people have become interested in yoga, kirtan, a vegetarian diet, and reading Bhagavad Gita due to Prabhupada's efforts. Who could have foreseen this revolution in consciousness? Srila Prabhupada did. In 1965, when he was still alone in New York, he met a Mr. Rubin, a subway conductor, sitting on a park bench. They struck up a conversation, and Srila Prabhupada explained that there are temples and books. They are there, but the time is separating us from them. He had an absolute conviction that he would succeed because he was faithfully representing his Guru Maharaj, Lord Chaitanya, and the whole parampara. In 1966, with just a few followers and a handful of disciples, he decided to incorporate the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON. International? He had only one center in New York. Yet Srila Prabhupada's conviction was unshakable. He could see temples and disciples all over the world. Only time separated him from them. In the Articles of Incorporation, Srila Prabhupada wrote 7 purposes of ISKCON. 1. To systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and to educate all peoples in the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of values in life and to achieve real unity and peace in the world. When Srila Prabhupada came to the West, he saw that the people lacked any understanding of genuine spiritual knowledge, what to speak of the tools and techniques for realizing that knowledge. Srila Prabhupada made it his mission to provide both, just as Vyasadeva wrote the Mahabharata to train and educate the less intelligent class in spiritual understanding. So we'll go through a few of these. To bring the members of society together with each other and nearer to Krishna, the prime entity, and thus to develop the idea within the members and humanity at large that each soul is part and parcel of the quality of Godhead, Krishna. This education is in keeping with the mission of our parampara. Srila Vyasadeva, on the order of his spiritual master Narada, spent his life making the Vedic literature available in Sanskrit. And Srila Prabhupada, on the order of his spiritual master, made the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, and other essential Vedic literatures available in English and many other languages. To teach and, number 4, to teach and encourage the Sankirtan movement, the congregational chanting of the holy names of God, as revealed in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Krishna came as Lord Chaitanya to break open the storehouse of love of God in this dark age of Kali. And he predicted that in every town and village of the world, his names would be chanted. Srila Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya's Senapati Bhakta, the commander-in-chief of his army of devotees, fulfilled Lord Chaitanya's prediction in a mere 11 years of worldwide preaching and founding ISKCON in July of 1966, after founding ISKCON. No. This is Srila Prabhupada's unique vision of how to organize an institution whose mission is to impart transcendental knowledge and thus create a cultural revolution for the benefit of society. This mission is the very essence of our parampara. Without changing the transcendental message, each acharya adapts it for the time, the place, and the audience that will receive it. We understand that Srila Prabhupada is a bona fide representative of Vyasadeva because Prabhupada embodies the teachings of Vyasadeva and explains the Bhagavatam in a way that others can understand it, so that everyone can take advantage of this knowledge and go back to Godhead. I, Ruchiradasi, have personally experienced, along with thousands of others, how my life has been transformed and saved by following Srila Prabhupada's instructions, chanting 16 rounds a day, adhering to the 4 regulative principles, and regularly hearing the Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Nectar of Devotion, and so on. Not only have we been given this amazing philosophy, but we've been given a whole way of life a cultural revolution. Vyasa Puja Day is my favorite day of the year. It is so wonderful. Every morning throughout the year, we offer our gratitude to Srila Prabhupada, bowing down, offering prayers, thanking His divine grace for saving us. But on Vyasa Puja Day, we are given the opportunity to dive deeper into understanding what we are grateful for and to express our gratitude more fully. To hear others share their realizations and express their gratitude to Prabhupada never fails to open my eyes to even more reasons why I should feel indebted. Just as kirtan is more relishable when lots of devotees raise their voices and sincerely chant together, calling out the Lord's holy names, so Vyasa Puja Day is the most relishable and blessed day of the year because we spend it with many devotees glorifying Srila Prabhupada and revealing our deepest feelings toward him. We all come together to glorify the pure devotee who brought Srila Vyasadev's message to the West and planted the Bhakti Lata Bij in our hearts. We should all take advantage of this Vyasa Puja Day to rededicate ourselves to Srila Prabhupada and his great mission with our life and soul. By Ruchira Devidasi from Alachua, Florida. Okay, Hare Krishna. Now, Pavamana and or Yamuna Pati, would you like to read your offerings? Thank you. Okay. I'm going to turn these lights on. I think we need more light.
Okay, Hare Krishna. I'll start off here. Just have a little offering here I want to make to our spiritual masters, Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So I'll start out. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna on this earth, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane. Our respectful obeisances are unto you, O spiritual master, servant of Saraswati Goswami. You are kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Dev and delivering the Western countries, which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. Before we go any further, Bhaddi Narayan Swami, you just came in. Did you want to go first?
No, I've got to get going.
Okay.
I'll wait. Thank you.
Okay. Dear Srila Prabhupada, I came across the following passage while reading your beautiful book titled Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. From Krishna book, chapter 1, The Advent of Lord Krishna. Quote, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, Krishna, would personally appear as the son of Vasudeva. Before his appearance, all the demigods, along with their wives, should appear in different pious families in the world just to assist the Lord in executing his mission. The exact word used here is tat priyartam, which means the demigods should appear on the earth in order to please the Lord. In other words, any living entity who lives only to satisfy the Lord is a demigod. By your divine grace, Srila Prabhupada, you are creating our good fortune, as by your mercy, you are enabling us to serve you and your mission, which is manifest under Krishna's directive in his form as Lord Chaitanya. This pastime is to deliver all fallen souls like ourselves through this Krishna consciousness movement and raise us to the platform of rendering service that is pleasing to the Lord. It all starts here, due to your kindness, Srila Prabhupada, and now the door is open for us to serve your mission, which is non-different from Krishna's and Lord Chaitanya's mission. I pray to you as our dear spiritual master and father, that I may continue to try and serve you in your mission in the wonderful association of all the devotee friends and family that we have here at New Govardhan Dham. All of these devotees are like-minded and good-hearted souls who are motivated to serve you in the mood of becoming tat priyartam, by rendering service to try to please you and Krishna. In this way, by your grace, we are practicing together to be able to someday be qualified to render such service eternally under the shelter of your lotus feet. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for such a blessed and inconceivable gift. Thank you for surrounding me with a loving devotee family, both my immediate family and all the devotees and congregation that make up our extended family here in New Govardhan Dham. Even though I have quite some ways to go to even be considered qualified, I pray to somehow be engaged in your service, Srila Prabhupada, and the service of your devotees and your mission eternally. Your lowly and aspiring servant, Yamuna Patidas. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Sampada, you have something? Oh, there you are. Please.
Hare Krishna. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to your divine grace. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pracharane Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarane. It is difficult to put into words the wonder that has unfolded in the world since you took your birth here. Even your childhood was wonderful to hear about, how completely pure and Krishna conscious you were, holding Ratha Yatra with friends, crying about not having a cart, being the leader of your friends, always the apple of their eye of your parents, seeing the Radha Gopinath deities for a long time, having your own deities to worship, learning Mandanga in spite of the objections of your mother, not being educated to be a barrister. What a glorious fortune to be your parents. Then, meeting His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj as a young man, even reluctantly, and then being completely enamored of him. Your objections were defeated, and at that moment you had chosen him to be your eternal guru, although you did not get initiated until years later. That, of course, was before you came to America, and the years you spent as a householder, writing back to Godhead magazine and supporting various Gaudiya Math temples, all the while being fully Krishna conscious and enthused to carry out the mission of your spiritual master. Because you never gave up the instruction to preach in the West, when the opportunity came, after long planning and struggles to obtain permission and passage to America, you came. Despite all discouragement, lack of support and funds, spending years translating Srimad Bhagavatam, you boarded the Jaladuta alone. At such an advanced age of 70 years, that act of courage could have only been possible by someone with complete and full faith in Krishna and your Guru Maharaj. Actually, it was almost a suicide mission, which almost proved true when you had heart attacks on the way. No one invited you to America. Your message to us Westerners was unpalatable, to say the least. No illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication, and no meat eating. The very things that support the Western lifestyle in the modern age. Your dress was unusual. No dress pants and coats, not eating with utensils, keeping your Vedic roots without compromise. It was for sure swimming upstream to the trends created by the Kali Yuga, leading to the most degraded habits of the general population. In fact, as we learned later, that you brought the whole Vedic civilization with you to implant in the West, and indeed the whole world. You always had big plans, and were never deterred by anything. And you always got what you wanted. Even though there was little response in the beginning, you persevered in spite of disappointment. Writing to godbrothers for help was also insulting, since many of them were skeptical of your activities. The weather was extremely cold in that first year, and for an older man with little warm clothing, I'm sure you had to endure great difficulty. Then selling your Srimad Bhagavatams for spending money was a feat in itself. Who was going to purchase them? Maybe libraries, yoga centers, or people on the streets of New York must have presented a special challenge to your book sales. Who was going to read them? The printing quality was not exactly in the American standard of publishing, with little artwork or photographs. They were not shabby, but hardly what most Americans were looking for. It is said that when Krishna descended to this earth, other personalities also took birth to assist in his pastimes. I am sure that the same thing happened when you came to America. Many of your earliest disciples and followers turned out to be amazing personalities themselves and helped immensely your preaching efforts. Somehow, when the need arose, you had editors and scholars to assist in book production, for example. Though most were from the hippie group, they easily and wholeheartedly became devotees and had sweet personal dealings with you, as if you had known them from some previous time. Hearing their stories from those early days is just sweet nectar, so personal, but also very significant, transitioning from a time when you tolerated many bad habits to instituting rules and regulations and a more strict lifestyle more conducive to bhakti yoga. Srila Prabhupada, I had the great fortune to be in a sort of second wave of devotees when I met some of your devotees at my college, SanDiego State. I could not understand them at all and dismissed them as drug-infested weirdos. Later, a devotee came to my door and explained everything. He told me to try the chanting and sold me a Bhagavad Gita. Then he invited me to the temple the next day for a feast. 2 months later, I joined the devotees. I became a brahmachari, though I didn't even understand what that word meant. I didn't know much, but the devotees were so warm and accepting of me, and my material life was leading me nowhere. After so many years of living in various temples and just doing the needful, trying to assist the preachers, because I wasn't a preacher myself, I found that I needed to marry. It has taken many years to understand how the many things you did were so extraordinary and profound. There was never any doubt on your part as to the outcome, and you anticipated everything perfectly, knowing what was going to happen. One of the qualities of a pure devotee is trikalagya, the ability to see into the future. You weren't just lost in the jungle with a machete, hacking aimlessly to blaze a path. You knew exactly where you were going and how to get there. There was no speculation, but a perfectly guided mission to save whoever you could. Somehow you engaged all kinds of people in bhakti yoga, in spite of the fact that they came from many various backgrounds. Most would never have been friends in ordinary life, and even there were many controversies and fighting going on because of different points of view. Yet you were able to resolve many of these difficulties with very expert advice. Sometimes you had to adjust the message to different devotees with opposite conclusions, just to keep them engaged and happy. All the while translating your books, traveling incessantly, preaching, and guiding the huge movement that was unfolding. And I'm sure your health wasn't helping either. Looking back at your life and seeing the movement unfold for the last 40-something years, I cannot help but be amazed to see the wonder of it all. The ordinary life is just a series of endeavors for finding happiness, with little planning. Your life seemed scripted, as if the whole thing was planned from beginning to end, for a greater purpose. In short, you came with a mission into this world, not by the force of some karmic reaction. Definitely you are not an ordinary person, even from a mundane point of view. Your life story reads like a fairy tale, with so many events that happened no one would believe unless they saw them with their own eyes. Somehow, though I am probably your worst disciple, I was able to witness many things myself and be part of your mission. Thus my fortune has no bounds. Sadly, I have not done anything extraordinary to help you. I am marred mostly nowadays in an endless endeavor to keep afloat, earning money, going here and there in my business. I long for those early days again, unencumbered by mundane activity and work. I know you are seeing my activities, and I wish I could do something to reciprocate for all the help and encouragement you have given me. I have even a hard time with the basics of chanting and hearing. Now that I'm heading for the end of my life, I need to become more and more serious in Krishna consciousness, and I'm praying for guidance and inspiration how to do this. I cannot, dare I say, we cannot thank you enough for all the gifts of Krishna consciousness you have given this world. Your perfect example will be an inspiration for millions and millions of people for thousands of years to come. The Christians have waited 2,000 years for a second coming of Jesus. Little did they know that the second coming just happened when you appeared. Not that you are the same person, Jesus, but that the Guru is one. Jesus was the Guru, and you are also, saying the same thing to a different audience, just to save the conditioned souls from oblivion in the clutches of Maya. There is no way that I can fully repay at any time how much you have given me, a hapless, hopeless soul, destined for hell, even with the best intentions. I pray that you afford me shelter at your lotus feet forever. Your most unworthy servant, Bhavana.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to read also my wife's offering. I'm going to read my wife's offering. She's not feeling well, so she wasn't able to come. This is her offering. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my most humble obeisances at the dust of your transcendental lotus feet. Thus, this is my only hope against hope, grasping, taking shelter of you. Just recently, I read an excerpt from Rupa Vilas Prabhu's book, Without Fear. He wrote, at the end of class, someone raised a question which in essence asked what it was like to be transcendentally situated, to be a self-realized soul. Srila Prabhupada considered the question for a few moments, and then he spoke two memorable words, without fear. As he uttered those words, I felt trembling. The hairs of my body stood on end. I had goosebumps and felt fearless, ecstatic, and emotional all at once. I felt a little self-conscious, not wanting to make a display of my feelings. But this is Rupa Vilas still speaking. But as I looked around the room, I saw that many other devotees had jubilant expressions on their faces. It was as though a wave of ecstatic energy had emanated from Srila Prabhupada and then passed through us. For a few moments, we knew what it was like to be situated in transcendence, fearless and blissful. And that is just how Srila Prabhupada was in so many instances, with his magnificent spiritual strength of his pure, unalloyed devotion to Krishna, coupled with genuine humility. It goes without saying there is endless anxiety, pain, and dissension in this material world, that we don't have to look for it. The longer we are in this body, for this allotted time, it can be realized all the more, the fragility of material existence. So throughout the years, being confronted with either adibhotic, adhyatmic, or adidaivik miseries. Does everybody know what those are? Huh? Okay, these are three types of miseries that everyone suffers in the material world. Those are miseries from your own body, just growing up, growing old, getting diseased, stubbing your toe. No, that's adhyatmic, excuse me. That's adhyatmic from yourself. Adibhotic is other living entities. Could be other humans, noisy neighbor next door, somebody hits your car. And then there's adidaivik, or those coming from the higher beings, demigods, like excessive rain and heat, earthquakes, and so on. So those are three types of miseries. I know embracing that treasured solace from within of Srila Prabhupada's causeless mercy, taking shelter in his Vani association with Srila Prabhupada's teachings, resonating the inevitable truth. It's leading us all to the positive goal, love of Krishna and devotional service, and to our spiritual master side by side. Also, remembering any of the sweet, loving exchanges with His divine grace I was able to have, Any rapport, big or small, engulfed one in such inexplicable happiness not to be able to translate into words. A devotee reminded me of an incident I had forgotten. After an evening kirtan 26 2nd Avenue, the temple, being a narrow storefront, was packed with devotees and guests. After the chanting, as usual, His Divine Grace was offered a plate of cut-up fruit. Every movement he made was so breathtaking to see as he gracefully popped a piece of fruit into his mouth without touching his hands. I was then handed the Mahaprasad to distribute to the assembled devotees and guests. I was handing it out to everyone at the same time, not wanting to turn my back to Srila Prabhupada. So she was walking backwards in a crowded room. It was so crowded, hardly any floor space left, that while trying to distribute the fruit without turning my back to Srila Prabhupada, I was stepping clumsily and tripping over people. And then all of a sudden, he gave a gut-level laugh. After hearing and remembering that, it gave me such happiness that Prabhupada enjoyed what I was trying to do. Another incident was when the temple was moving from 26 2nd Avenue to 61 2nd Avenue. Srila Prabhupada was scheduled to come. It was a few blocks up, and we were all excited that the temple was relocating uptown. Well, down where the temple was sort of a lower class area, and we were so desperate to expand. We knew the movement was going to expand, so we were so desperate to move uptown where all the more wealthier yoga groups were, because we were very kind of poverty-stricken at that time, just struggling. So this new storefront was only 2 or 3 blocks uptown, and we thought, yay! It was bigger as it was previously a tuxedo shop. We were all preparing for his grand arrival. A Vyasa was built in an alcove containing 3 adjacent mirrors for viewing one's tuxedo from different angles. When Srila Prabhupada was seated on it, one could see him from those different angles, which was all the more relishable. A few weeks prior to Prabhupada's arrival, I embroidered the words, "All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga," in script on deep golden yellow velvet with red embroidery thread. The day Prabhupada arrived, everyone was very joyously chanting and dancing. He walked through the entrance from the street up the stairs. The placard I had done was hung right in front of the Vyasa, just underneath his lectern. He stopped and asked who had done the inscription, then showed he was pleased. I was so overwhelmed by his kindness to notice. The sheer happiness was just being able to do that devotional service, and then it was multiplied by him being pleased. It can never be overemphasized that Prabhupada exhibited such a commanding, purifying presence that anyone who came in contact with him experienced this. There is this well-known pastime I heard again recently, which never ceases to amaze me. It's about a flight attendant who grabbed a piece of Srila Prabhupada's remnants from his plate of puffed rice Mahaprasad. Then she asked if there was anything that she could get for him. He asked for some hot milk, which she enthusiastically supplied. Then a number of years later, a Sankirtan devotee was distributing books in a very out-of-the-way place. When knocking on the door, he surprisingly saw that the woman who answered had many of Prabhupada's books. She then related that she was the flight attendant who grabbed some of Prabhupada's remnants and then served him by getting some hot milk for him. Such is the potency of Prabhupada's divine grace. Again and again, I offer my humble obeisances to my beloved spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. I beg to remain your spiritual daughter and servant always, Kanchan Bala Devi Dasi. Dear Srila Prabhupada, You are like a vast ocean of devotional qualities, impossible to know the limits of. As a new student, I was attracted to you and your teachings, but as I realized later, it was the philosophical concepts that excited me, which were more theoretical at that time than visceral or realized. Over time and through practice, I was able to give more credit to my heart and less to my mind. As it is said, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. I came to you as a previously surrendered soul to the impersonal conception of spiritual endeavor. I tried so hard to see everything as one. This nearly killed me, spiritually and physically. You saved me from that horrible mistake by teaching me the process for removing the cataract of ignorance so that I am now able to appreciate Sri Krishna and his creative ability and all the beautiful things of his nature. Ultimately, they are all connected to the personality of the Lord, and what a unique personality he has. As he says, I'm the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the strength of the strong, and so on. But through the books that you tirelessly produce for us, you've revealed the very sweetness of his personality. I offer my unceasing thanks to you for giving me the chance to approach the house of bhakti. I've only been able to push open the heavy door of that house enough to get a glimpse inside through the small space created. That vision has given me a taste for chanting Hare Krishna, a small taste for chanting Hare Krishna, and appreciating the beauty of the deities, Sri Sri Gaurnitai, Sri Sri Radha Giridhari, and Sri Balaram, Srimati Subhadra, and Sri Jagannath Swami. When I see hundreds of thousands of devotees and their children all over the world, like Russia, China, even Mongolia, now chanting and dancing in joy for Krishna, it brings tears to my eyes, and I break down in happiness that even in some small way I was helpful to you in the beginning. And I'm so fortunate to be able to see this. Now I pray someday again to assist you in your service wherever you may be, and I will never give up that hope and desire. Please don't reject me. Your eternal servant, Madhusudan Das Adhikari.
Hare Krishna. Haribo. My husband, Rajendra Das, was not able to be here, but he wanted me to offer his obeisances to all of you. And of course to Srila Prabhupada and the deities. Okay, this is his offering. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my prostrated obeisances. All glories to your divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Once again, and quite quickly, it seems it is time to try and offer you glorification and thanks for all that you have done and are doing for me. In one sense, it is so easy to glorify you because any and all verses of the scriptures describing the position and qualities of the spiritual master are describing you perfectly. In the Vayu Purana, an Acharya is described as one who knows the import of all the Vedic literatures, abides by their rules, and teaches his disciples to act in the same way. As your name, Bhaktivedanta, implies, you know all of the Vedic literatures and their purpose and essence as well. You were empowered by your spiritual master, His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, their lordships Sri Sri Gaurnitai and Sri Krishna, to spread their teachings throughout the world. You made the most sublime and esoteric absolute truth of Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva easily understandable to uncivilized two-legged animals known as hippies. Your books were received and appreciated by university professors and the intelligent class of men as well. Living your life as an open book, you showed how you applied Krishna consciousness with love and compassion as your overwhelming motivation in everything you did. To have been fully empowered to a degree unseen before in this world, we have heard how you chanted, prayed, and begged for the blessings of Sri Advaita Acharya and Sri Shigarnitai in Shantipur Dham. Similarly, you spent years in the Radha Damodar temple chanting, praying, crying, and begging for Rupa Goswami's blessings as you wrote your Bhaktivedanta purports to the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, preparing to undertake an impossible mission given to you by your spiritual master. Because you served the holy names of the Maha Mantra with complete faith and dainya, utter humility, your accomplishments will be remembered and glorified for the rest of the golden age of Lord Chaitanya in this Kali Yuga, despite your feeling completely unqualified to succeed in executing the impossible task of spreading Krishna consciousness in the West. As Srimad Bhagavatam 11:17-27 quotes Lord Krishna, one should know the Acharya as myself and never disrespect him in any way. One should not envy him, thinking him an ordinary man, for he is the representative of all the demigods. Oh. Oh. Thanks. Only a direct manifestation of the Lord and a genuine representative of Lord Nityananda could have spread the teachings of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna to practically the entire world. You planted fertile and potent seeds of love of Godhead in the hearts of so many people, many of whom you are using as your instruments to continue spreading Krishna consciousness exponentially to every continent, every country, and before all is said and done, to every town and village of this world. Not only are you a representative of all the demigods, but they all desire to glorify, serve, and get your association and the dust from your lotus feet. You told us demigods were lining up to take birth in this movement of Lord Chaitanya's, in the mighty branch of his tree known as ISKCON. I find it hard to understand how anyone who has received your blessings and the blessings of your followers through association of and service to this movement can leave or become fixated on the shortcomings and faults of your followers, who sometimes fall short of properly representing you and your message of love of Godhead. As for myself, I know that this movement and your followers are the means through which you continue to shelter, guide, and give your all-compassionate mercy to this insignificant and lowly disciple. I have so many faults and bad qualities despite which you continue to love me and care for me by helping me become reinstated in my eternal identity as a servant of the servants of the Lord. You do this throughout the experiences of my life, through my purified consciousness, and through many of your selfless and kind servants. In this connection, I can't help but remember Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's meditation on the blessings he sought from Lord Nrsingadev here in Mayapur Dham. Excuse me. He prayed, "When will I hear the Lord mercifully say to me, 'Dear child, stay here happily in Gaura Dham, worship Radha and Krishna, and develop attraction for the holy name. By the mercy of my devotees, all obstacles are transcended. With a purified heart, just worship.' I feel this worship Radha and Krishna, the abodes of sweet nectar. I feel the same instructions and blessings from you blossoming in my heart, and my gratitude is ever expanding. My focused desire is simply to give you my life and all it includes, my words, thoughts, and deeds as a miserably insignificant token of gratitude for giving me the opportunity to serve in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. Even if only as a tiny peon, I daily pray to remain fixed in this consciousness and not to have it denigrate into the temporary sentiment of an elephant taking bath. Srila Prabhupada, your mercy is all I have of value, and I simply want to grow in a way pleasing to you, hoping you'll be pleased to give me more. Falling at your feet, and in the shelter of your instructions and followers, Rajendra Narayana Das. This is my lowly offering. Okay. My dear most Srila Prabhupada, please accept my attempt at humble obeisances at your most holy feet. All glories to you. I'm inclined to glorify your devotees, Srila Prabhupada, as I know this is especially pleasing to you. First, thank you for my kind advanced devotee husband, Rajendra Narayana Das, and for our nice devotee son, Acha. Excuse me. I want to glorify the leaders who serve tirelessly and diligently guiding your ISKCON. And worth glorification are all of your disciples, grand disciples and followers who are also helping you in your divine service to please your Guru, dear most Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. By yours and his blessings, the faithful devotees serve to protect and expand the glorious Sankirtan movement. Had you not traveled the very difficult journey to the west and then east to save us all, we would only know to glorify our nonsense thoughts and activities, leading us to hellish destinations. But because of your limitless devotion to Lord Krishna and your boundless compassion for all souls, you took that journey and brought Lord Chaitanya's movement and mercy with you, so that everyone can chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Please accept this simple offering of gratitude. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. Thank you. Praying to be your sincere disciple, Chatura Devi Das.
Okay, I don't think there are any more disciples of Prabhupada.
I have one.
You have one to read?
It's gratitude. It's from Vaikuntha Murthy Dasi, who's a disciple.
Okay,
of
please.
Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. So this is from Mother Vaikuntha Murthy Dasi. She lives here in SanDiego in Claremont, but she's been bedridden for many years. And Mother Chatura was very kind to ask me to read this. Mother Vaikuntha Murthy joined in New Dwarka many years ago. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to you and your mercy. Thank you for pulling me out of the material world and onto the road back to Godhead. My fellow devotees are the ones who are keeping me on the path. They include Kanchan Bala. She has come to see me every week for nearly 11 years. Chintamani, Radhapriya, that would be the other Radhapriya. Kanka, Chatura, Kripamayi, Devi, Draupadi, you know her as Debbie, Prema, Radhadasi, Balai, Ujvala Prada, Mamata, and of course my incredible family. I'm grateful to you for sending them my way. I love you, Srila Prabhupada. Your servant, Vaikuntha Murthy Dasi.
Yes, you have? Please.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Pacharne Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschachadesha Tarne. I kind of feel like I have my back to Srila Prabhupada just a little bit. Srila Prabhupada, I've been trying my best to meditate on a regular basis on your instructions. They're so vast, so many. And then I was just remembering, and again reminded today, of the wonderful prayer that we sing every day to you. And even though I don't come to the temple regularly, I do sing these prayers to you every morning, as you know. But the 7th verse of the Guru Vashtaka prayers, Sakshadarit Venasamasta Sastra Uktastata Bhavyata Eva Sadbi Kintu Praborya Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord, because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hari. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 8th chapter, 43rd verse, you also discuss this, this same verse. I'll just read one portion. Then is spiritual master as good as God? The next line is, Kintu Prabhurya Priya Evatasya. A spiritual master is not God. He is the distinction is Sevya Bhagavan. Sevaka Bhagavan, Sevya means one who is worshipped, and Sevaka means one who is worshipper. The spiritual master is God, and Krishna is God. But Krishna is worshipable God, and spiritual master is worshipper God. He is God, but he's worshipper God. That is explained. So Srila Prabhupada, you are this bona fide spiritual master. You are this bona fide worshipper God. And the instructions that you give are non-different. They are from Krishna. So this saves us from so much anxiety in the world. We're wondering, should we drink milk? Should we not drink milk? Should we? So many things. The list goes on. I'll try and be much shorter than I originally planned. But you, Srila Prabhupada, have given us so many instructions very clearly. And so my prayer to you, my glorification to you is that you are this wonderful worshipper God that we all can take shelter of and be freed from so much anxiety. And my prayer is that somehow or another I may actually be able to take shelter of your lotus feet. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Sankirtan Devidasi.
Hare Krishna. No bowing. Krishna Prabhu, did you have an offering you want to read? Radhadas, can you read the Ram Mohul's off? Vaishnava ministry.
This is the Vaishnavi ministry offering. Every year we ask a different Vaishnavi to write the offering, and this year's was written by Rambaru Devi Dasi. If you don't know her, she's an absolutely wonderful disciple of Srila Prabhupada. I was a preacher and helped run temples for many years, and then became somebody who trains people to do pastoral counseling. And she's a fantastic harp player. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Putale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamim Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Dear Srila Prabhupada, in your early childhood, your parents impressed upon you that if a grain of rice falls on the floor, you must pick it up and touch it to your head to show respect. Later, you drew upon this early life lesson to instruct your disciples, saying, we are teaching how to utilize everything for Krishna, how to understand Krishna in everything. That is our mission. Krishna says, anyone who sees me everywhere and everything in me is perfect. This simple yet profound message holds within it the entire philosophy of Bhakti Yoga, not just perceiving everything as Krishna's property, but utilizing it all in Krishna's service. After risking your life to obey the order of your glorious spiritual master to preach in English, you arrived on the shores of New York, aghast at what you saw. A misguided nation with an ever-increasing disrespect for human, plant, and animal life. You almost turned back several times until finally, after much endeavor, you glimpsed a flicker of hope for their salvation. Later, as you reflected with your disciples after they inquired how you boldly, single-handedly shouldered the task of transforming a culture so buried beneath the darkness of ignorance, you humbly replied, "I simply obeyed the order of my guru, relentlessly praying to him and Lord Gauranga. How can I do it? How can I do it? How can I do it?" Strictly following the insights and guidance that emerged as a result of your heartfelt prayers, you racked your brain how not to waste a single drop of energy, a single moment, a single talent, a flicker of potential. Whatever resources came to you in any form, money or human power, you understood this one principle, that because everything is Krishna's property, it must be used in his service. In doing so, the otherwise fallen world of darkness becomes redeemed. For all the blood, sweat, and tears you poured out in your efforts, you were not interested in merely teaching people how to be clean, dress modestly, or eat vegetarian food, although along the way doing so became an obvious response to your message of love. You were not interested in simply creating a new religious group of do-gooder moralists who conform to a mundane standard of religious piety, although those who understood and followed your teachings automatically became good and moral people. You were aiming for the impossible, handing down that one simple instruction your parents gave you and getting all people to practice that in every area of their lives. See Krishna in everything and use everything in his service. Over and over, you beat your drum in your letters to your disciples, saying, "Simply offer all your talents and energies in this service of the Lord, and know that Krishna promises that for one who surrenders fully unto him, he fully protects such devotees from all kinds of material distresses and sinful reactions." From Srila Prabhupada's letter on February 4th, 1971. And Krishna says, "Svakarmana, whatever talent you have got, you can serve me and be perfect. That is the program." From Srila Prabhupada's Conversation, January 16th, 1976. When you observed your disciples' hearts light up with even the tiniest spark of enthusiasm to preach, you fanned it until it blazed with the same fearless joy you knew as an ambassador of the holy name. You utilized everything and everyone in the Sankirtan mission, regardless of their bodily designation. Men, women, children, householders, businesswomen, artists, educators, scholars, builders, craftspersons, carpenters, etc. Everyone was urged to join the war effort to kill the demoniac mentality of this Kali Yuga. When you asked your dear disciple, Mulika Priti Dasi, what she said to people when she distributed books, you pulled out the Srimad Bhagavatam and slowly and carefully read the verse. "This Bhagavat Dharma is as brilliant as the sun. This verse is so wonderful. If you just tell people this verse, how can they resist? You don't need to say anything. The Srimad Bhagavatam will sell itself." Then you said, "In this age, it was actually a benefit to be a woman, and that in Kali Yuga, things are so downgraded that people don't trust men. Hardly anybody will allow a man to come up to them or will open a door if a man knocks." You said that when you were a young man, a company was selling Brahmi hair oil and sent respectable young women door to door, and everybody opened their door and bought the Brahmi hair oil. Chuckling as you mused, it was never even proven that Brahmi hair oil had any medicinal properties, emphasizing the clever utilization of women's natural propensity to influence and inspire. In this way, you explained, Lord Chaitanya is sending nice young women to help the poor conditioned souls to go back to Godhead. This is his plan. And that's from Memory Anecdotes of a Modern Day Saint, Volume 1 by Siddhanta Das. In addition to noting the many ways women contributed to your movement, you credited your movement's success to their presence amidst the men, nearly all of whom you reasoned would not otherwise have stayed. And that's from A Living Theology of Krishna Bhakti by Tamal Krishna Goswami. You write, Personally, I am so much gladdened that the pairs of young boys and girls whom I have placed in householder life are doing so nicely in the Western world. When Lord Chaitanya delivered Jagai and Madai, he was also a householder. But when Jagai and Madai were actually reclaimed, his wife, Vishnupriya, was not there. But in this case, and in many other cases also, I find that my disciples combined together, husband and wife, are doing this preaching work so nicely. So I am especially proud how my householder disciples are preaching Lord Chaitanya's mission. This is a new thing in the history of the Sankirtan movement. In India, all the acharyas and their descendants later on acted only from the man's side. Their wives were at home because that is the system from old times, that women are not required to go out. But in Bhagavad Gita, we find that women are also equally competent like the men in the matter of the Krishna consciousness movement. Please, therefore, carry on these missionary activities and prove it by practical example that there is no bar for anyone in the matter of preaching work for Krishna consciousness. From a letter to Himabati in 1969. Being full of contradictions, all forms of religion but Bhagavad Dharma work under the conceptions of fruitive distinctions, of fruitive results and distinctions of you and I, yours and mine. The followers of Srimad Bhagavatam have no such consciousness, thinking that they are Krishna's and Krishna is theirs. In your purports you say, Bhagavad Dharma is called Sarvotkrishtha, the best of all religious systems, because those who follow Bhagavad Dharma are not envious of anyone. Pure Bhagavats, pure devotees, invite everyone, without envy, to join the Krishna consciousness movement. A devotee is therefore exactly like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Suridam Sarva Bhutanam. He or she is the friend of all living entities. Therefore, it is the best of all religious systems. Whereas so-called religions are meant for a particular type of person who believes in a particular way, such discrimination has no place in the Krishna consciousness movement or Bhagavad Dharma. That's from Srimad Bhagavatam 6:1641 purport. As your movement continues to flourish and grow, may we stay focused on this simple yet profound instruction that your saintly parents instilled in you. Understand that everything is Krishna's property and engage it in his service. All glories to you, Srila Prabhupada. Rambaru Dasi on behalf of the ISKCON Vaishnavi Ministry. And I'd like to just add one little meditation that this brought to mind for me on the importance that Srila Prabhupada placed on marriage, but also on devotees cooperating in marriage. He once said that marriage is for mutual cooperation to serve Krishna. And Rukmini Devi tells how she was newly married. She joined the movement at 16, so I'm not sure she was even 18 at the time of this. She was very young. And, you know, as often happens in a young marriage, a new marriage and a marriage of young people, there were some difficulties. And she became very morose and despondent and also became very thin. She was sickly. She and her husband went to, or Srila Prabhupada came where they were living, and Prabhupada took one look at her and turned to her husband and said, "You have not taken care. I have given you my daughter, and you have not taken care." And when her husband tried to, say something in his own defense, Prabhupada simply turned his head and wouldn't look at him, wouldn't hear him, and he sent Rukmini to live in another temple for a while. And the next time he came where her husband was living, he said to him, "Where's your wife?" And the person reminded Srila Prabhupada, "Well, you sent her to Boston." And then he asked, kind of hopefully, "Should I ask her to come back?" And Srila Prabhupada said, "Yes, the husband without the wife is only one half." So, anyway, thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I haven't written anything or prepared too much, and I'm not so good at speaking in front of everybody, so excuse me. And also feel like I'm a little bit of a pretender to sit here and talk about Srila Prabhupada, but he did affect my life, so I can say something. I was listening to a lecture yesterday of Srila Prabhupada, and he used a nice analogy. He was saying how in the West, everybody has a dog. Okay. And he said this quite often in different ways. Then he said that he often sees the people taking their dog for a walk. And the dog then decides it's time to pass urine or pass stool. And the owner stands there very patiently, waiting for the dog to do its business. And then Srila Prabhupada said, so is this out of a sense of duty? Does he have to do that? No, he doesn't. He said, this is love. He says, out of love, he's prepared to undergo this austerity. And then he said that Krishna sends the spiritual master who patiently waits while the fallen souls are loitering. He uses the word loitering a lot. Loitering in the street doing their business, and the spiritual master just waits patiently and lets them do all their business. And he says, not out of duty, this is out of love. So it made me think how Srila Prabhupada had that love for everybody, every spirit soul, because he had love for Krishna. And practically everybody he met had some profound experience upon meeting him because of the love that he had for everybody. And everybody would feel that when they met him. In my own case, I wasn't fortunate enough to personally meet Srila Prabhupada, but his love got to me through a book. Actually, I was in South Africa in 1985, and I had never heard the word Hare Krishna. I had never seen a devotee. I didn't know they existed. I was a seeker, hippie, living in a communal house. And one of my friends brought home a Science of Self-Realization. Said, oh, she met these weird people, and they gave her this book. And I read it from cover to cover the same night. And I knew at that instant, this is what I've been looking for my whole life. And it changed my life. Within 6 months, I was joined the temple, full-time devotee. So then it made me think, Srila Prabhupada has given us so many things, so many gifts that make our life so rich. And what would my life be like if I didn't have those things? And I thought, I just made a little list quickly of some of the things that Srila Prabhupada has given, like the association of devotees. We have such wonderful devotees to associate with. Of course, the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and not Bhagavad Gita as it's supposed to be, or not as, his Bhaktivedanta purports and his other books. The process of purification, Vaidhi Bhakti, Anarthana Vritti. I mean, there's a common saying, people don't change. But Srila Prabhupada has given a process where we can get rid of all the dirty things in our heart and, bring out our original spiritual nature. I mean, it's truly amazing. Kirtan, Bhajan, Harinam, all the instruments and all the hymns and songs that go with that. Deity worship, so much to do with that. Like Maharaj is making a garland right now, making garlands. I mean, there's just a million things that are in our lives now that wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for Srila Prabhupada. So, who else has a little thing that's in their life that they can say that wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Srila Prabhupada? Anybody? Prashadam. Cows, yes, and farm communities. Shlokas, this is Haribol.
Everyone speaks on their level of realization. I'm Prashad of these slokas.
Anybody else?
Deities.
We said deity worship.
Yeah.
Children, yes, getting education. Going to the Holy Dham, temples. I mean, you can drill down, Vaishnavas, devotional service. There's just a myriad. I mean, it's unlimited. Buttermelon, Asafoetida. So, Srila Prabhupada has given us this rich, happy, wholesome lifestyle that ultimately leads to a life of eternal bliss with Krishna in the spiritual world. So, I mean, if that isn't a manifestation of love, then I don't know what. So, thank you, Srila Prabhupada. Without those things, my life would be totally empty and totally purposeless and probably pretty debauched. So, Jai, Hare Krishna.
One quick announcement.
Yes.
I was just going to say, if anybody has an offering that you...
Go ahead. Oh.
If anyone has an offering they want to offer to Srila Prabhupada, bring it back to the Pujari room because we're assembling them on a table. And when we make the main offering of the feast to Srila Prabhupada, we'll include that. So if you brought something, please bring it to the back and we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Just as the editor, offering has different meanings. We're also making offerings. Of course, he meant a boga offering, something you cooked. We'll take it back.
The cooked offering, this is the offering cards and words.
So first of all, I'd like to put in a plug for the Vyasa Puja book, which contained that offering. Whoops, I'm sorry. Hare Krishna. I'm upside down myself. So this is the 50th anniversary book. The first one is in 1969. I'm very fortunate to have all of them on my shelf. And they're all sweet in their own way. The first couple, I think at least one or two, all the devotees in the movement who wrote offerings, they signed their names. And you can actually see the signatures. Bhavananda's takes up a whole page, and the other thing. So this book is available in the store. There's a limited number, and there's only 500 printed throughout the whole world. So it's a collector's item. Please don't leave home without it. And with Maharaj's permission, I'll read my little offering. Because you're senior to me in every way. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my most fallen obeisances at your divine lotus feet. All glories to you on this most glorious day, the 123rd anniversary of your appearance in this world. Recently, I have been rereading Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, Satsrup Das Goswami's biography of you. I'm in the last volume now, and as I reflect on the incredible saga of your life, from your childhood being raised by your pure devotee father, Gaur Mohan Dey, who guided and encouraged your devotion to Lord Chaitanya and Radha Krishna in so many ways, to your first life-changing meeting with your Sadguru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, to your business and family life side by side with your service to the Gaudiya Math and your Gurudev, to your detachment from family life and more engagement in writing for Krishna and trying to spread Krishna consciousness in India, to your sannyas, your printing the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam by a Herculean effort, your unbreakable determination to sail to New York despite all obstacles, and then your determination and perseverance through, practically speaking, homelessness, extreme weather, burglary, the Bowery, until you were able to plant the seed of bhakti in a few hearts and begin the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Reviving my remembrance of all these pastimes of yours has been a deeply moving experience. how much you sacrificed to give us the greatest treasure, Krishna consciousness, all out of your oceanic compassion and love for all of us. How fortunate we are to have come in touch with you directly and through your books, your devotees, your prasadam, your deities, your institution. From the Upadeshamrita, we learn of 6 things that are sure to destroy devotional service. One is niyamagraha. This obstacle has 2 aspects. The first is most obvious, neglecting to strictly follow the program of Bhakti Yoga you gave us, based on the teachings of Lord Chaitanya and his learned followers, headed by Srila Rupa Goswami. The morning program is a distillation of Rupa Goswami's Vaidhi Bhakti instructions, centering on the 5 most important aspects of sadhana: association with devotees, chanting the holy name, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of devotees, residing in a holy place, and worshipping the deity with faith and veneration. But there's another aspect to niyamagraha, performing the acts of sadhana bhakti, but without faith, inattentively, just for show. It is this second aspect of niyamagraha that can seep into our practice of bhakti if we're not attentive. In this regard, I try to bring full attentiveness to the morning program. The Guru Vashtaka, these are the 8 verses we sing every Mangalarti, beginning with Samsara Dava Anada Lita Loka. The Guru Vashtaka is actually a great way to meditate on your gifts, your compassion, your intimate relationship with the Lord and your own spiritual master, and the proper mood we should have in serving you. Back in 1997, I wrote an English poem based on the Guru Vashtaka, but focusing on your gifts to us and anyone, now and through the ages, who will surrender to your instructions. I'd like to share that with you here. I think many have heard it who've been here, but there's many new people who haven't heard this before. So it's a little poem to Srila Prabhupada. Those who are familiar with the Guru Vashtaka will see that there's content of that within this each verse. Trapped within samsara's all-devouring blazing fire, we had no hope of rescue. Till your Guru's strong desire inspired and empowered you to boldly cross the sea and teach the truths of bhakti, so some souls would be set free. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. Patiently you taught us how to chant the holy name, and how to dance, and how to sing, and what was life's true aim. And thus you gave us Lord Chaitanya's teachings unalloyed, and saved us from the all-devouring Mayavadi void. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. When Krishna Bhakti spread and you had centers here and there, you introduced the worship of the deities so fair. And soon throughout the world their lordships smiled upon your crew and nourished strong devotion to themselves and unto you. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. Prasadam was your special weapon. No one could resist. Once the Sunday feast had started, no one could desist. We'll have an intermission as we all bow down to the deities. So it's quite appropriate we start that one again. Prasadam was your special weapon. No one could resist. Once the Sunday feast had started, no one could desist. Halva, sweet rice, crisp pakoras, sabdis, puris, rice. With these and other preps, you did our tongues and hearts entice. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. The books you shower down upon the masses and on us taught Scripture's sacred essence, bhakti pure and nectarous. And while you wrote, you relished Sri Sri Radha Krishna's name and form and pastimes, qualities, and everlasting fame. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. While managing your ISKCON with the whole world as your stage, meeting, preaching, traveling like a man of half your age, you served their lordship Sri Sri Radha Krishna in your heart, arranging for their pastimes in Vrindavan's secret part. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. The Guru is as good as God, you said, and some were shocked. But you had simply quoted Scripture. You did not concoct. And sure enough, for those who worship you as they would God, the path of bhakti opens wide and joyfully is trod. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. If you bestow your mercy, then Shri Krishna gives his too. But if your mercy is lacking, then there's nothing we can do. So every day we should reflect upon your life sublime and vow to serve you always with our body, words, and mind. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. So then is the 9th verse. Now I could hardly give a benediction, but I have a prayer. I pray that my small hymn, though lacking literary worth, presented to remind us of your pastimes on this earth, may find some favor both with you and with your devotees who hover round your lovely lotus feet like maddened bees. O Prabhupada, I pray that you bestow your mercy now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. Praying to become worthy of a place at your lotus feet, I remain your fallen servant, Dravida Das. Hari Bol. Thank you. Hare Krishna. And now, Maharaj is still absorbed in his service there. Till 5:45. Okay. So, let's see. Anyone else have an offering they would like to make? Either spontaneously? Sampada, please.
Dear Srila Prabhupada, please am I supposed to, I had it right? Okay. Okay, please accept my most humble obeisances at your lotus feet. All glories to you and to your most beautiful deities, Sri Sri Radha Giridhari. Composing a Vyasa Puja offering to you is very difficult for me, not because your glories aren't endless, but because I am so dull, insincere, and ungrateful that I cannot come up with the words to describe them. Please help me. One would think that after so many years in your movement, I would have some feeling in my heart for you and Lord Krishna. I guess I must be doing something wrong. I can't say I don't know what that is. I know it's having one foot in the spiritual world and one foot in the material world. After some ecstatic and enlivening spiritual activity, I always feel the need to go right back and try to enjoy some nonsense. I'm like an elephant that takes a bath that then goes on the shore and covers himself with dirt. I'm reluctant to pray to give up my material desires because part of me doesn't really want to give them up. I'm afraid if I pray, then Krishna will actually take things away. You see, I have no faith. I really do want to have faith in you and Krishna. You were so merciful to me to include me in this movement, even though I was not seeking anything spiritual at the time and had no intentions of joining. Somehow or other, I found myself in the high-rise building at 55th Street with the first ever Ratha Yatra down 5th Avenue and yourself attending. Amazing. Oh, God, hold on. It just disappeared on me. Okay. Okay. My parents were beside themselves, and my mother almost had me deprogrammed, but decided that it cost too much money. My mother was convinced that there were drugs in the food. Many years later, unbelievably, my mother came to Lord Balaram's feast in SanDiego, loved it, and gave a donation. She talked repeatedly about how much she loved the prasadam. She even came to Ratha Yatra one year. That was really mercy for her. Srila Prabhupada, I love to listen to your disciples tell their memories of you. It's such a wonderful way to get to know about you and your incredible qualities. You are so full of compassion, love, humor, humility, fearlessness, just to name a few. Whenever I hear a story about you, I try to remember it so I can tell someone, but with my Kali Yuga memory, I'm usually not very successful. One story that I seem to always remember that illustrates your humor, I heard from Giriraj Maharaj. Your disciple, Shankar Prabhu, once asked you what we should do if we see a UFO. You said, "Run!" I don't know why I remember that particular story. I just thought it was so funny. Also, I recently read a story by Shruti Kirti Prabhu, where he talked about you chastising him for cooking in the kitchen for the deities with an orange rind in the garbage can, the orange having just been eaten by you. You told him he was moochie and a mlecha. Shruti Kirti didn't say much except for, "I am just a fool." You said, "You are no fun to argue with because you never fight back." One story that almost melted my hard heart was also told by Shruti Kirti. He said one time you were not feeling well and he was sleeping on the floor under your bed in case you needed something. In the middle of the night, he heard a thud and woke up to see you lying on the floor next to him. You said that you needed to use the restroom but thought you had more strength. You said you didn't want to wake him. Srila Prabhupada, there are innumerable, heartwarming, funny, and instructive stories to hear about you, and I'm so grateful for them. I hope I never get tired of hearing them. Srila Prabhupada, you sacrificed so much for us, leaving your home at an advanced age, traveling on a steamship, enduring heart attacks, coming to a foreign land, being alone, living with crazy people, having your few belongings stolen. But you were able to do all this because you had the ultimate faith in Krishna and your Guru's instructions. I pray that I can obtain even a minute amount of that faith and that I can be grateful for all that you've given me. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. You're trying to be servant Sampada Dasi.
Anyone else? Sorry. I'm putting you off. Okay, does anyone else want to say? Are you ready, Mars?
And I can borrow your book?
Sure.
You could open that door for a little fresh air. Was there a reason it's shut? Or oh, geez, I don't have my glasses. Well, that's it. No, I want to read it. But I'll go get them. But just as I'm sitting here, just two quick stories that I was reminded of. They were talking about how brave and Prabhupada coming to the West, how it wasn't easy. Prabhupada's walking in the Cross Maidan, and it's a big park in Calcutta, and there's the Victoria Memorial. It's about 18 stories tall. You can Google it. It's a huge building in Calcutta, and it was built in honor of Queen Victoria's 50th anniversary or whatever it was. And Prabhupada said when they were building it, it was all, anyone been to India, they've seen fantastic. Thank you, Mukunda. They've seen bamboo structuring, the bamboo, and it creaks and shakes in the wind. So imagine 18 stories of that. And so Prabhupada said, as a young man, a young boy, Prabhupada was probably around 12 years old, Prabhupada said, I climbed to the very top when they were building it. And you can hear the devotees on the morning walk. They say, Prabhupada, you must have been very brave. And Prabhupada says, and I am still brave. He said, otherwise how have I come to your country alone? So then there were also, someone was saying how Prabhupada was expert at speaking according to the person and the time and the place and the circumstance. So in Vrindavan, there was one devotee, sannyasi, and he wanted to be in charge of the Vrindavan temple. And he was doing all kinds of politicking and lobbying and this and that to get the temple president thrown out and he could take over the position. The temple president, and I should say his name, Akshayananda Maharaj, was another sannyasi, very nice, kind, gentle sannyasi, very good manager, and Prabhupada liked him. He liked the job he was doing. So he called in called in the sannyasi and said,
you know, you're a sannyasi. Why are you attached to position? You should never stay anywhere more than 3 days. Why? Get out. Go travel. Go. Threw him out, actually. Then he called in Akshayananda Swami, also a sannyasi. Said, you say you want to quit. You say you want to leave. I want. As soon as you say I want, what kind of sannyasis are? You should just stay and do your duty. So 2 different sannyasis. One go on the road and travel, you're attached. And the other one, you're attached because you want to give up your duty. And both, according to time, place, and circumstance, expert preaching. Now we've lost David? No. Yeah, because Mukunda found my glasses.
Great.
Thanks, Rahul. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tanani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paskachada Satardani. And this is titled A Perfect Life. In 1922, in colonial Calcutta, on the roof of a small house in Ultadanga Junction Road, in the soft shadows of the early evening, a young man met his spiritual master. Anybody else got a phone? You can shut it off. A young man met his spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. That young man, known at the time as Abhay Charan Dey, was His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And so our story begins. It is one of courage in the face of overwhelming adversity. It is a story of a compassion so deep that it breaks the heart of one who understands it. Never had Abhay heard the message of Sri Chaitanya presented so boldly, so convincingly, and with such urgency. The meeting included a challenge. Why don't you preach Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message throughout the whole world? Leaving, with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's words still ringing in his ears, Abhay thought, if I were not married, I could join his mission immediately. But Abhay had his family responsibilities. Therefore he resolved, let me succeed in business and thus help fund his mission. It was not an unreasonable proposal. Abhay was well educated, his family well connected, and both his palm and his astrological chart predicted that he would achieve great wealth. And yet, in his business endeavors, he met with disappointment and setbacks again and again. Finally, after 3 decades plus of trying and having finished his family duties, Abhay retired to Vrindavan to consider his future and how to best execute the order of his spiritual master. He knew that his time was marked. The end of his life was not that far off. Going to the West was now or never. Taking sannyas and having printed the first 3 volumes of his Bhagavatam commentary, he was ready. Departing from Calcutta on August 13, 1965, Srila Prabhupada stepped on board the Jaladuta, bound for the USA. But his path there was not greased with speed or ease. After 10 days on the boat, Prabhupada wrote in his diary, rain, seasickness, dizziness, headache, no appetite, vomiting. As noted in the Lilamrita, the pain in his chest made him think that he would die at any moment. In 2 days, he'd suffered 2 heart attacks. He tolerated the difficulty, meditating on the purpose of his mission. But after 2 days of such violent attacks, he thought if another were to come, he would certainly not survive. Finally, on September 9th, he wrote, at 4 this afternoon, we have crossed over the Atlantic Ocean for 24 hours. The whole day was clear and almost smooth. I'm taking my food regularly and have got some strength to struggle. There's also a slight tacking of the ship, and I'm feeling a slight headache also. But I am struggling, and the nectarian life is Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, the source of all my vitality. After 35 days, the Jaladuta finally arrived in Boston Harbor. Observing the skyline of an American city for the first time, Srila Prabhupada wrote, Most of the population here is covered by the material modes of ignorance and passion. Absorbed in material life, they think themselves very happy and satisfied, and therefore they have no taste for the transcendental message of Vasudeva. I don't know how they will be able to understand it, but I guess you have some business here. Otherwise, why would you bring me to this terrible place? What followed was such a profound display of tolerance, perseverance, courage, and compassion that it can only be comprehended by looking at its component parts. Lest this narration become too long, let us consider only a few examples. While recovering his strength in Butler, Pennsylvania, Srila Prabhupada endured Sally Agarwal cooking broiled beef in the oven and saying, "Sorry for the smell, Swamiji," as she flapped her apron trying to air out the kitchen. In New York City, drunks would be passed out on the staircase and thus blocking the entrance to his small room in the Bowery. Prabhupada kindly noted, they would sometimes call out to each other. Picture them passed out on the steps, just drunk like anything. So I heard Prabhupada say this. They would sometimes call out to each other, "Here comes Swami," and then they would roll out of the way to one side, thus allowing him to pass. Then Srila Prabhupada said, in this way, they were offering their dandavats. Reverse, upside down, you know. On a far more dangerous level, he was chased out of his shared living space by his roommate, who had become crazed by LSD and was now wielding a knife and babbling incoherent threats. There was a third heart attack that left a constant dull ringing in his head that lasted for a year and a half. And it was not that the struggle ended once Srila Prabhupada got his ISKCON up and running. One of his personal assistants, a recent sannyasa initiate, was caught drying homegrown marijuana in the oven of the LA temple kitchen. A trusted disciple from the early days sold the Hawaii temple and left with the money. After Srila Prabhupada had worked so hard to start the project in Juhu, bewildered disciples gave the land back to the cunning and conniving seller, Mr. Nair. The struggle continued and was so fierce that at one point Srila Prabhupada joked, "As we have our temples named New Vrindavan and New Dwarka, we shall call this temple New Kurukshetra." One of his senior-most leaders, someone who Prabhupada was depending on leading his booming New York temple, and who was helping him manage the BBT, allured by a pretend heiress of the Toyota Motors family fortune, gave up his service and faded away with her. Yet Prabhupada continued to forgive, to reinvigorate those fallen disciples who were willing to try again, and by sheer determination alone, he simply moved on. Krishna reciprocated with Srila Prabhupada's selfless surrender. One such golden confirmation was the New York City Ratha Yatra of 1976. With three enormous and gorgeously decorated carts, hundreds of dancing disciples, the street lined with tens of thousands of onlookers swept up in the enthusiasm of the moment, came Lord Jagannath triumphantly sailing down Fifth Avenue, America's parade route for conquering heroes, with Srila Prabhupada sitting on one of the carts. Let us close our story on another rooftop, far from that one in Calcutta of so many years ago. Sitting on the rooftop patio of ISKCON's Manhattan skyscraper building after that jubilant 1976 Ratha Yatra, Prabhupada looked out over the skyline of New York, the same city that had originally greeted him so indifferently. He contemplated how far his mission had come. As amazing gifts were born out of the churning of the celestial milk ocean, by his churning of the ocean of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada had given the world 108 temples, many with magnificent deities. He had initiated close to 5,000 disciples. Millions of books full of sublime Vedic wisdom had been placed into the hands of relief-hungry conditioned souls. There were farms, restaurants, schools, traveling bus parties, colorful Ratha Yatras, and lively festivals spread across the globe. Lord Chaitanya's prediction that his holy name would reach every town and village was rolling forward, propelled by these great waves from Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON. Against all odds, from such humble beginnings, who would have predicted such an implausible story of success? One has to wonder, what was the cause? The answer is found in Srila Prabhupada's implacable, audacious personal faith and conviction in the purifying power of the holy name and the potency of the order of his spiritual master. I could never do a pinch of what Srila Prabhupada has done. But because I can't do everything, I should do nothing. Let me at least do what I can do. I can give up my pettiness. I can give up my arrogance. I can give up my tendency to unduly criticize others. I can put my shoulder to the wheel of his mission and push with all the strength at my command. In these ways I can hope to someday repay him for all that he's given me through the guiding light of his perfect life. Your obliged, indebted, and most grateful servant, Bhadranayan Swami. Hare Krishna. Oh, before I forget, tomorrow morning for Srimad Bhagavatam, instead of the regular Bhagavatam class, we're going to do a PowerPoint slideshow about Srila Prabhupada. And it's got some good stories in it, and nice, rare, never seen before photos. So that's tomorrow morning, Bhagavatam class at 7:30, followed by nice prasadam. Prabhupada said, no function is complete without the distribution of prasadam.
So we don't have time to read another offering. We're going to have the Pushpanjali, which is offering of flowers to the Prabhupada with mantras at 5:45. And then we'll have simultaneous kirtan. The curtains will open and we'll have a puja for Srila Prabhupada, which you're all invited to, and we'll have the kirtan. And then after that, what is after that? During this time?
Right now, yeah.
Okay, so the offering will be going on as we do the Pushpanjali at 5:45, which we'll wait 5 minutes for that.
Wait 5 minutes, yeah.
Okay. So,
Anyone else want to say something spontaneously in 5 minutes? Not to put you on the spot.
sorry?
I'll read the speech.
Oh, the temple offering.
Your designated agent.
I'm sorry? Kripamahiri, you're here.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, please.
They both can speak. We can be 5 minutes late on the response.
Fine with me. We're kind of governed by the curtains opening at 6, but go ahead.
Definitely. I speak from experience.
Okay, he's going to read the temple offering, which is fairly short.
Yeah, sure.
You want the book? You want the book?
I might get a mic.
All right. It's a long night. Mangalarti was interesting this morning.
You were fulfilling your
Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnananjanasharakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishnaprishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatadine. Oh, so this is the short offering for the Pacific Beach Temple. Every center offers an offering, or offers something, some words. It was a poem, and then it became a non-poem. Pacific Beach is a beautiful place for forgetting Krishna. The sun and sea encourage laid-back complacency. The fashion blatantly celebrates licentiousness. All-pervading advertisements promise that we will very soon be happy here. Gambling, meat-eating, intoxication, and illicit sex are the only sources of inspiration by which the people continue living. This place is not fit for any gentleman. But still, you came here. You not only visited this material world, but also visited the cultural pit of it. Despite knowing the highest standard of living, the most sophisticated philosophy, and the most elevated culture, you chose to spend some time here in Southern California. You gave ignorant and offensive souls a chance to hear you and your pure, offenseless chanting. You painstakingly presented the process by which any person can be purified, and you sincerely encouraged everyone you met to take part. So if you, a Vaikuntha man, were willing to preach in this lowly place, then what excuse could possibly be given by us who are natives here? What is deemed worthy by you must be worthy by us. Therefore, rather than escaping, your devotees preach in this lousy, scenic city. And you were right, of course. Even here there is innocence to be found. Though thoroughly engaged in sinful lives, many do so not out of viciousness but cluelessness, having simply never registered another option. And upon meeting your devotees or reading your books or tasting Krishna Prasadam, those once misled and miserable become the most fortunate souls. Some of your sweetest devotees have been made and nurtured here, and there are undoubtedly more to come. People truly become happy here, not from the sun, not from the surf, not from the sights, but from service to you. Therefore we pray for your blessings to continue serving in this rotten tourist spot. And this requires that we don't lose our minds. So may we remember that we aren't here on vacation, that this place is a prison, and to live in this world means to die. May we remember that the solution to all problems is Krishna consciousness, and not Californian notions of yoga and love. May we read your books and may we study them. We need spiritual strength in order to truly help anyone, and such strength comes not from mere endeavor, but from pleasing you. So in heaven or this hell, may we please you. Your servants at New Govardhan Dham, Pacific Beach, SanDiego, California, USA.
Yes?
This is a matter of local color. Prabhupada walked in Balboa Park, and the devotees said, Prabhupada, it's just like Vrindavan. Prabhupada said, no, it doesn't work. From someone who actually knows.
That was beautiful, Prabhu. Thank you. That was amazing. And Badri, that was wonderful. I'm so sorry that I missed all those readings. Okay, so this is really, okay. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. Sri Krishna is your beloved, and for these many years you have been patiently and kindly pointing the way to the soothing shelter of his lotus feet. Is that better? Okay. When as a new devotee I sat in the temple room in New Vrindavan, you stated unequivocally that this material world is simply a place of suffering. Actually, Srila Prabhupada said, there's nothing good here. It's all bad. I was young, Srila Prabhupada, and feeling so protected, certain and happy just being near you, surrounded by eager devotees, and in the gentle presence of Sri Sri Radha Vrindavan Chandra, my thoughts responded to that statement with doubt. I had no understanding that, in fact, in that special moment, in that very special moment in time, we were like your babies, all wrapped up in your embrace and transported out of the material and into the safe haven of the spiritual realm. This sense of heartfelt contentment, this Vaikuntha emotion, these were all made possible only by your causeless mercy and determined desire to deliver each of us from our illusion. Over the last 48 years, I have understood, sometimes with painful clarity, the truth of your purport. And so, Srila Prabhupada, I find myself grateful that by your causeless grace, you have offered us a sturdy lifeboat to bring us to the shore in the storm of material existence. I cannot imagine life without you, without your illuminating teachings, your thorough and thoughtful guidance, your beaming and encouraging smile, your patient kindness, your courageous example, your firm and joyful faith, your extreme generosity. Without these, fear, suffering, foolish illusion, and crushing loss would reign supreme. Without all of who you are and all that you have given us, we would be overwhelmed at every unexpected twist and turn on this journey. Without you, we would be bereft of your beloved Lord Sri Krishna. I can only thank you again and again. I can only pray that you will, like the most excellent transcendental magician, mystically melt all of our hearts and fill them up with love of the Lord and compassion for our true selves and for all souls everywhere and in every circumstance. Your mercy is all we are made of when we are at our best, Srila Prabhupada, hoping to somehow serve you and give you cause to smile. Your grateful daughter, Kripamai.